Hello. In this video I will discuss multiple regression and path analysis in AMOS when you have interactions among continuous exogenous variables. Most specifically, I'm going to focus on how to probe interactions using the User Defined Estimands approach using AMOS. Now, rather than walking you through all the gory details with coding, I've created two text files that will allow you to generate simple slopes, simple intercepts, and conditional means for probing interactions very quickly. Links to the text files containing those codes are available for download underneath the video description. You'll also find underneath the video description links to the data, this PowerPoint, and the AMOS files that I use. So be sure to check all that out, and if you like the video and the supporting materials, please take time to like the video and share it with others. So for my first demonstration, we're going to focus on moderated multiple regression. And the SPSS file has variables in it for mastery goals, performance goals, the interaction between mastery and performance goals, socioeconomic status, and interest. So basically we're predicting student interest from their levels of mastery goals, performance goals, socioeconomic status, and then the interaction between mastery and performance goals. So this is the raw data opened up in SPSS. So there's SES, performance goals, mastery goals, interest, and then the interaction term. Again, that was formed by multiplying performance goals and mastery goals together. So here we have opened up the AMOS file containing our path diagram. And so basically there are several steps that we have to take in order to run our analysis, in order to test the interaction term and then to plot the simple slopes. So you'll notice that we've already included our mastery, performance goals, interaction term, and SES and interest variables in the model. So what we're going to need to do next is to click on Analysis Properties. And under here we're going to click on Estimate Means and Intercepts. Next, after that, we'll click on Bootstrap, and we're going to click on Perform Bootstrap and Percentile confidence intervals. And I've set these at 2,000 for the number of Bootstrap samples and 95% for the confidence interval. And so this is going to allow us to generate Bootstrap standard errors and confidence intervals associated with the simple slopes. Conventionally, you would typically use the asymptotic covariance matrix to come up with standard errors for simple slopes, but in this particular case, we can accomplish the same thing using Bootstrap. Also note, under our output, there are other things that you might wish to click on, so that's just available to you as well. So at this point, now what we're going to do is we are going to right-click on the interest variable and click on Object Properties. And so under text, you have the name of the variable that appears in the data set. Under parameters, what we're going to do is to label the parameter, and I'm going to label this I. And so in order to use the code as it's written, I'm using the label I in that code. So you don't change that or else it's not going to work. So I've labeled that for I for intercept. I'm going to click on this regression path right here from mastery to interest. That's my focal predictor predicting the outcome variable. And under regression weight, underneath the parameters tab, I'm going to type in A1. So that's the label that's used in the code for that first regression coefficient. Then I'm going to type in A2 just by kind of highlighting the second button right here and then typing it in. And then I'm going to highlight the third path and type in A3. So those are the codes, again, that are written, or these are the labels that are used in the code that I've written. Next, I'm going to click on Mastery, and still underneath the parameters, I'm going to type where it says mean. Since mastery goals is really my focal predictor, I'm going to call this FP underscore mean. So the FP is just my terminology for focal predictor, and then I'm going to type in FP underscore VAR. Then we're going to do the same thing for performance goals, but in this case, since performance goals is going to be treated as a moderator variable, I'm going to type in MOD underscore mean, and then MOD underscore VAR for variance. So now I'll click the close button right here. So at this point, we need to specify the user-defined estimands. And so, when you first draw this out, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see where it says not estimating any user-defined estimand. So what we're going to need to do is to click on this button right here, click on Define New Estimands. And so when we do this, a box opens up. And this is where we can put in these coding for generating the various pieces of output, like the simple slopes, intercepts, simple intercepts, and conditional means. But I already have that information written out in a text file, so what I'm going to do is call up that text file. So this is it in Notepad, and so you'll notice as we walk through, I've already got all the coding for everything in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of this, copy, and then I'm going to go back, and in this box right here, I'm going to paste it in. So you'll notice, first off, that portions of it appear in green, and that's just comment lines. And so a comment line begins with essentially an apostrophe, and then everything after it is going to appear in green. So what you'll notice, though, as we're going through, first I'm computing a low, medium, and high value on the moderator. So essentially, I'm using the pick-a-point approach, where I'm picking a point that is a low value on the moderator, a medium value on the moderator, and a high value on the moderator. And I'm designating moderator as W. So essentially, the low point for the moderator is being calculated as 1 standard deviation below the mean, a medium value is at the mean, and then a high value is at +1 standard deviation from the mean. I'm doing the same thing with respect to the focal predictor. So I'm calling the focal predictor X. So you can see I've got low X, medium X right here, and high X right here. Then below that, as we kind of scroll down a little bit, you'll see where I'm calculating the simple slopes, and I'm substituting the information from above up here into these formulas. So you'll see right here I've got SS low W. So this is the simple slope for the focal predictor on the outcome variable at the low level on the moderator, which is 1 standard deviation below the mean. And so it's calculated by taking the regression slope for the focal predictor plus the product of the interaction term times the low value on the moderator variable. So again, that's being what we calculate above is being substituted into this formula. Then we have SS MEDW, which is just basically the simple slope at medium value on W. You'll notice right here it's A3 times basically the mean on W. And then we have the simple slope at high W is just A1 plus A3 times the high value that we've computed above. So these are basically computing the simple slopes. Then down below, we're computing the simple intercepts as well. So these are this is how that's computed. And then below that, if we scroll down a little bit further, these are the conditional means that are based on the estimated means, standard deviations, and the regression slopes. But notice that we have right here, we have I, which is the label that we used in our diagram. We have A2 right here, we have A1 and A3. These are the labels that are from the diagram, so we have to make sure those are correct. This is the FP underscore VAR for variance. Then we have MOD underscore VAR, and that's for the variance for the moderator variable. So again, we have to make sure that everything is laid out in exactly the same way. The same labels that appear in the diagram are the ones that are used in the code. So next what we'll do is we'll click on Check Syntax. At the bottom it will say Syntax is OK, so it's ready to go. So we'll click Close, and it says the file has changed, would you like to save it? So ordinarily you would. You can click on Yes right here, and we'll just go ahead and save it over a previous file. So I'll just click on that and save over it, and it's ready to go. So in the future, if you wanted to use the same code, you wouldn't need to necessarily copy and paste from the text file, but you could actually just call up this particular file containing the estimands just by using the Select Estimands button right here. So at this point, we're ready to go, and we'll click on Calculate Estimates. So now the model has been run, and what we're going to focus on is the output, the AMOS output, and so we'll click on Estimates right here. And under estimates, you can see these are the regression weights from our original model. So you can see the path from mastery to interest. There's the unstandardized regression weight. You can see it's not statistically significant. Performance goals to interest, you can see there's a negative predictive relationship. It's significant, but most important is this interaction term in relation to interest, and you can see it's statistically significant. You also notice that the labels right here are reflecting the labeling that we included in our path diagram. Last, you can see our covariate was a significant positive predictor of our outcome variable. Down below, you see the estimates for the means for mastery performance goals. You can see we have intercepts, that's for the interest variable. If you scroll down a little bit further, you'll see the variances that were estimated for mastery and performance goals. And then down below that, under User Defined Estimands, this is where we're going to find our simple slopes and our conditional means. So I tend to prefer just clicking under estimates, go to scalars, and then User Defined Estimands to kind of clean things up a bit. And so you'll see in this, you'll see right here, it's got SS low W, SS medium W, SS high W. So these are the simple slopes for the relationship between mastery goals and interest at low, medium, and high levels of performance goals. And whether or not this is theoretically, whether or not it makes sense theoretically is kind of irrelevant. The data is fictional, so but nevertheless, what this would tell us, just by looking at the slopes, you can see they're becoming increasingly positive as level on performance goals is increasing. So those are the simple slopes, the simple intercepts for the regression lines at low, medium, and high levels of the moderator. These are the values right here. And then down below, these are the conditional means for our interest variable. And so this is where we can take this information and plug it into another program and plot out the simple slopes. And I'll show you how to do that shortly. Now, if we want to test the simple slopes for statistical significance, we can now, when this box is up right here under User Defined Estimands, we'll click on Bootstrap Confidence. And so now we have not only our estimates, but now we have the lower and the upper bound for our 95% confidence intervals. And you also see we have the p-values as well. But you'll see where it says simple slopes. These, again, are those simple slopes I was telling you about. And then we have our lower bound for those intervals and then the upper bounds. And so basically, if a value of 0 falls between the lower and the upper bound, that would be an indication that the simple slope is not significantly different from 0. Whereas if 0 falls outside of the lower and the upper bound, then that would be an indication that it is significantly different from 0. So in all three cases, the null of 0 falls outside of the lower and the upper bound, and that would indicate that we have statistically significant simple effects across levels of the moderator variable. Okay, so as I mentioned before, now we have the conditional means that we would want to plot for the in order to generate the simple slopes, a visualization of the simple slopes. So what I'm going to do is take my AMOS file right here, and I'm going to go up to estimates so I can get a little clearer picture. And I've actually created an SPSS file just to kind of illustrate what's going on. So you'll notice right here that essentially I've got all of these values. These are the conditional means on the interest variable. So I've created a column containing those values in this order. So you'll notice that we start off with the 2.834 right here, 3.497, and so forth. All of these values all the way down. Now you'll see that I've also created a mastery variable and a performance variable reflecting our 3 points for low, medium, and high for mastery and performance. So right here, starting with the first three, you'll notice that it says low W. So this is low levels of the moderator variable W, which in this case is performance goals. Then you'll see low FP, medium FP, and high FP. That's the focal predictor. So what you'll see right here is I've created on this variable, these are all the low performance cases, if you will. And then mastery, I've got low, medium, and high right here. So these first three values that are showing right here are basically predicted scores for individuals who are low on the moderator variable and low, medium, and high when it comes to the mastery variable. Then we have performance. These values right here are all 2s. that I've created right here, and that just represents the medium W. So that's medium levels on the performance moderator variable, and then we have low, medium, and high for mastery again, and so that's reflected in these next three values that are given right here. And then we have high levels on the moderator, so that's the high W right here, and then you can see low, medium, and high mastery as well, and so the last three values on the interest variable are reflected right here. So once we have all that in there, then we're ready to plot. So, and let me also just kind of note too, a little handy piece of information. You can go under the variable view, and under values you can assign labels so that they appear in your chart. So I've assigned a 1 for low, 2 for medium, and 3 for high for both mastery and performance variables. So let's go ahead and generate our simple slopes. We'll go to Graphs, and you probably don't see it, it's probably running off the screen, but go under the Graphs tab, which is right next to the Analyze tab, go down to Legacy Dialogs, and then go down to Line. We'll click on Multiple, and then Define right here, and let me just reset this to show you. So I'm going to click on Other Statistic, I'm going to move Interest down here, Mastery I'm going to move to the Category Axis box, and Performance to the Perform box right there, and click on OK. And the output file, this is what it looks like. So you can see that we have performance, each of the three lines which are now color coded. You'll see blue is low, medium is red, high is green for performance. And then mastery, you can see we have low, medium, and high. And then on the y-axis you can see the values on our interest variable. So these are the this is a plot of the simple slopes. So basically, following the coefficients that we saw earlier for the simple slopes, you can see that the green line representing high levels of performance had the steepest slope. So basically, mastery was more strongly positively related to interest among the high performance goals individuals. The weakest slope is actually the blue line, which is reflecting the low performance goal orientation. And the red line, again, is reflecting those individuals at medium levels of performance. Okay, so now let's run a second analysis. In this case, we're running a path model where we have, again, mastery goals, performance goals, their interaction predicting interest. We have SES also predicting interest. But now we have interest as serving as a mediator between our exogenous variables and the achieve variable that we have over here. So in this particular case, we also have mastery goals having a direct effect on achievement, and SES also having a direct effect. But the main issue regarding the interaction of mastery and performance on interest is the same as what we had before. So you can see that I still have the labels of A1, A2, and A3 for these three path coefficients. You can also see that I still have the label I for the interest variable for the intercept, and then we also have the labels for the mean and variance for our focal predictor, in this case mastery, and then our moderator, in this case performance goals. What I've added in addition to the additional paths is a label right here. So what we're going to be doing in this case is calculating the conditional indirect effect of mastery on achievement via the mediator interest. So the indirect effect is being modeled as conditional on the performance goal variable. So again, if we are going under analysis properties, let's just take a quick look at what's been clicked. We have estimate, means, and intercepts clicked under Bootstrap. We have the same things that we had clicked before. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go down here and click on Define New Estimands, and this box is going to open up, and we're going to select the new syntax or new code that I've written for this particular situation. So in this case, really all of the information all the way down to about this point, all of this is exactly the same as from the previous model. And what I've added now is essentially a comment that now we're computing the conditional indirect effects, and you can see I have CIE low W. So that's a conditional indirect effect of essentially our focal predictor mastery goals on achievement at low levels of the moderator. And so this is just computed by multiplying the simple slope for mastery on interest at low levels of the moderator, which is performance goals. So we're multiplying that times path B. Then we're doing the same thing to obtain the conditional indirect effect at medium levels of our moderator, which is again performance goals. So we have the simple slope at medium levels of performance goals multiplied by path B, and then we also have the same thing for the conditional indirect effect at high levels of the high point on the performance goal measure. So again, we're multiplying the simple slope by path B. The last little section right here is just computing the index of moderated mediation, and so in this case we're taking path labeled A3 and multiplying it by B. So let's copy all of this and we'll paste it in to our User Defined Estimands box. So there it is. We'll press check syntax and then close, and we'll just type yes right here, press yes, and then basically this is it right here. I'll just save back over this. Yes, it's already, we already had it. So there it is, and we'll press calculate estimates to run the model. So you can see there's our chi-square value and everything. Again, if you basically go under the output document, you can see that we have our model fit information. There's the chi-square value, significance tests, the CFI, TLI, and so forth. You can see down here we've got the root mean square, error of approximation, and so forth. But the main things that we're going to focus in on right now are just going back to the estimates. So you can see under the estimates, you can see that, let me kind of scroll up here just a bit, our regression coefficients. So again, there's mastery to interest, performance goals to interest, the interaction term to interest. Basically the previously noted significant paths are still statistically significant, but now you can see that we have our path B label right here, and that is from interest to achievement. So you can see it's positive and that's statistically significant. So then let's go down and go under scalars right here and User Defined Estimands. So again, we have our simple slopes for the relationship between mastery goals and interest. And that's at low, medium, and high levels of our moderator, which is performance goals. So basically we can get all the same information as before. In this particular case, there's our simple intercepts and then our conditional means as well. What's most important, or the new part, is this section down here. So now we have the CIE at low W, medium W, and high W. So these are the conditional indirect effects, and then there's our index of moderated mediation, which you'll find right here. And again, if you click on Bootstrap percentile method, then down here you can see that the conditional indirect effect of mastery goals on achievement via the interest variable at low levels, or at the low point on performance goals, it's positive, and 0, the null, does not fall between the lower and the upper bound. So we would infer that the conditional indirect effect at low performance goals is statistically significant. Then for medium levels of performance goals, you can see the conditional indirect effect is also statistically significant, as 0 does not fall between the lower and the upper bound. And then at high level of performance goals, again, that's positive and statistically significant. So all three of our conditional indirect effects were positive and statistically significant. And then our index of moderated mediation is positive, and it is statistically significant as well, as 0 does not fall between the lower and the upper bound. And you can think about the index of moderated mediation as sort of an omnibus test of the conditional indirect effect of the predictor on the outcome variable via the mediator. So that pretty well concludes this demonstration. I appreciate you watching. Again, check out the links to the text files underneath the video description, as well as all the other supporting files. Again, thanks for watching.